All right, everybody. Here we are again after a week away from the Metal Blade Live series so that our label and our friends and colleagues could all enjoy Psycho Las Vegas. If you went, just know that I am jealous. I wanted to go real bad. But having had COVID, and even though I'm still vaccinated, there's a few people that I know that like same situation as I was in, had it, got vaccinated, and then got Delta, and almost died. It was terrible. But enough about that. I am here this week with one of my favorite people in the world, genuinely one of my favorite people in the world, Stevie Boiser of Inferi and Equipoise and Ashen Horde and Tethys, like every sick bands. How's it going, man?
Doing really, really well, bro. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's been, God, such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Since that tour, right? I think that was the
Yeah.
last time that I actually saw you in person, was
Yeah,
at
last
the end
time
of
in the flesh.
at the end of 2019. Wow, what a long road. It seems like another lifetime at this point.
Yeah, it's only been like 30 years.
Yeah. Yep. So, for those of you watching who may not know who Stevie is or the bands that I mentioned, Stevie is a fantastic vocalist, man of many talents, wears a lot of hats, plays in a lot of bands. His most, I don't want to say relevant, but most on focus band right now would definitely be Inferi. You guys are doing some stuff, man, making some waves, making some moves right now.
Trying to.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I am so stoked on all the new material. We recently recorded the new Legion record with Dave Otero, who you guys went to for this last record, and he didn't show us anything, but Dave loves to do this thing where he won't show us stuff, but he'll be like, "Oh, dude, this band I just recorded, by far their sickest material, like so sick." And he was doing that with you and Archspire and a couple other bands. And then I finally got to hear it, and he was not wrong. So tell me about the album a little bit, Vile Genesis. You guys have released a few singles. Take it away.
Yeah, so our upcoming album, Vile Genesis, is actually a sequel to the 2014 record, The Path of Apotheosis, in terms of lyricality. Musically, I mean, there are sort of some themes that are overlapping things, but it is Inferi, so our material is constantly evolving. And while we do like to keep our same core of just being very heavily focused on melodic flow and like making sure that the songs feel like a journey, you know, but also kind of feel like they're really short for being how long they are. Yeah, I'm super stoked with how the material turned out. Working with Dave was amazing. You know, like you guys have done a few different records with him, and he has this really great way of sort of, even once you're like 6-7 hours into the day and kind of just like feeling done, like kind of coaching you to still get like the best possible takes and stuff that you can, which has been really sick. The writing process for it was interesting. I mean, we typically as a band write from different places and sort of utilize DAWs or, you know, things like Guitar Pro to get our ideas across to each other and just kind of demo everything out.
That's awesome, man. I have always been curious about your writing process because being someone who has played in a lot of different tech death bands myself and done everything from taking a hand and writing some things on the music part to writing literally nothing and just singing my part. When I recorded that Inanimate Existence album, Never Ending Cycle of Atonement, I didn't write anything. That whole process was Cameron had written all the lyrics, he wrote all the music, and he had written all the vocal patterns as well. So when I went into the studio, it was like, all right, so this next part is like, the stars align shining light upon the path, and I'd be like, all right, cool, the stars align shining light upon the path, and we did the whole album that way. But on the other hand, like I said, there's been bands that I've been a part of where I've taken a really active approach in writing music, like with this last Legion record and all that kind of stuff. So it always is really interesting to me to hear how other musicians, particularly other vocalists in
Mhm.
a genre like tech death, approach writing and how involved you are in that process. Tell us a little bit about that as an artist in general, but specifically for Inferi, keeping lyrical continuity and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So for Inferi, I write the majority of the lyrics and stuff. The only other person that really has a hand in that is Malcolm, which is cool because I feel like him and I work really well and can kind of build off of each other. And musically, it all kind of starts from like a riff bank, you know? Like Malcolm and Mike have these files that are put together that are just like riffs or portions of songs that they write, and we'll sort of evolve things from there as they're going through and like getting that skeleton put together for it. You know, everybody in the band will kind of go through and sort of critique like, hey, maybe we should cut repetitions from this, or like we need to add something to make this build to make it bigger, or adding, you know, different ideas for transitions or other riffs. Personally, I kind of like will take part in the peer review phrase and just kind of give my input on how I think things are getting put together, which, uh, because of the people that I get to work with, it's usually like, you know, it's done very well.
Yeah.
And I'm super stoked on the stuff that they send in, which is great. And I get to take the last bit of things. So I usually hear things from all the way from like riff bank up until it's like sweet, the song is pretty much done. I usually hold off on writing my lyrics and vocal patterns for stuff until I at least have like the entire skeleton. That way I don't have to like build stuff and then we cut this much of it and put something else there. So I totally have to take a wild left turn. I'm not a fan of like rewriting lyrics again and again and again and again. So typically, I mean, I don't know how you are with that, but like that kind of I get married to certain phrases once I
Yeah.
have the actual words, and then it's like really difficult to leave it alone if I have to change it. So I usually try to go through and like write out my patterns and phrases for like, cool, there need to be X amount of syllables in this section, and then that's going to ramp into this next part, and so on and so forth. And then once I sort of have all of those patterns and stuff laid down, I'll go through and figure out how many different perspective shifts I have to make the story work. Because a lot of the stuff that I do is very story driven. And so I like to make sure that all of those things are laid down in a really solid foundation before I start putting the actual story into place.
Right. So that makes perfect sense, and it's funny that you mentioned the being married to ideas thing, because especially when you're writing a concept record, right? Something that is driven by a story. It's really important, you know what I mean? Like you write a certain phrase and it there's an intentionality behind it. Like there's a purpose to why that particular phrase or lyrical passage was written, and having to go back and change it because the music gets altered or something happens in the studio can sometimes be pretty infuriating. I got very used to making those changes though. When I first joined Legion, we were working on Proponent for Sentience, which is a concept album.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a few times where Dave in the studio, because he does have that very hands-on producer method of recording, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we were in the studio with him, my first time in the studio with him, there was a lot of not really butting of heads, because Dave is such a hard guy to butt heads with. He's always so amicable and chill about stuff that it's never like a no, it has to be this way, no, it has to be this way kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there were definitely some moments where it was him being like, yo, you need to cut this part because we're cutting this part of the song or this lyric or things like that. And me being like, dog, this is a story. We can't, if we cut that part out, it's like cutting out a chapter, because each part of this story is condensed into a 5-minute song. Like it's hard to take things away without losing a lot. And since then, I've had to definitely learn to love my lyrics less.
Yeah, that kind of resiliency is definitely like it's a very strong attribute to have, you know,
Yeah.
or to even just be able to like, there were definitely certain times tracking with Dave where he would be like, hey, let's maybe cut part of this phrase and we'll extend this other thing up a little bit just to kind of change up a feel. So just being able to like be adaptive with it,
Hmm.
I think is very good. Also, one thing that I've definitely had to learn over the years too is that even if you're married to your parts, until it's mixed and mastered, it is an ever evolving
You never know what it's going to sound
kind
like.
of piece. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that might sound great in my head after all the other moving parts are put in might not be as good as I thought it was. But usually, I feel like that's where Dave is so good because of his communication and his patience with artists. Is that if you communicate something to him like, "Hey, this part's really important," he'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Even on this last album that we did, there was a lot of, "Hey, we need to cut this part," and me being like, "Oh, well, there's a reason that this is here and all this kind of stuff," and managing to fit it in somewhere else in the song or bring another part into it that fit lyrically and feel wise a little bit more, to still convey that message and bring everything together. So I can definitely relate to you on that for sure. But that's super interesting. It seems like a good rule of thumb to generally wait until things are mostly fleshed out musically before you start your lyric writing process to avoid rewrites and unnecessary edits and all that kind of stuff. But it seems that the way that you approach it is more calculated than a lot of other vocalists that I've talked to. So that's really interesting, and I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Um,
I really try to like flesh it out that way because I'm huge on stories,
yeah,
so I love to make sure that it just feels like that continuity is there from beginning to end. And
absolutely.
another thing that you kind of mentioned about Dave in terms of like him as a producer, one really great thing about working with him too is, like you said, he's not pushy when he has an idea. Like he'll let you do your thing 100%, and he's like, all right, now that we have this, let's try out this other thing, and then we'll
Right.
A/B them and kind of see what's what, which is an incredible tool. And plus, working with him, he does so many different styles of metal as well, but he understands all of the moving parts of each of those genres and kind of how to bring them to their best, which is excellent.
Absolutely. He definitely has a very unique way that I haven't experienced with any other producer of understanding where the zenith is in every project that he works in and bringing everything to that point, um, which is huge, huge. And
Hmm.
I think that he accomplished that with Vile Genesis for sure. Just based off of the singles that we've heard so far, Vile Genesis, Simian Hive, and Mesmeric Horror, it sounds incredibly cohesive and definitely like your guys' best work to date. So I
Thank
want
you.
to I want to talk about the video for Mesmeric Horror real quick because I know that that got a lot of attention when it dropped. For those of you who haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. It is half performance video, half amazing animated action cartoon. So tell me a little bit about that whole process. How did you guys decide to go that route with the video, and what was it like seeing cartoon you kind of come to life?
So we wanted to do something a little bit different because Inferi is actually, aside from like performance sort of videos that were actual live cuts in terms of just like filming and stuff like that, we've never actually done a music video. So we wanted to do something that was, you know, gonna that we could be really proud of as like a first thing that the band has come together to make, but also would stand a bit differently amongst its peers. So it wasn't just sort of the same kind of video or anything like that of stuff that a lot of other people in the genre are doing currently. So we came up with the idea of having it be animated. We found a studio that we were interested in that had various other works and checked those things out. Everybody was like, "All right, this could be pretty crazy. Let's sort of see what happens." And we had a back and forth with them as far as the story went, which was really cool because Malcolm ended up sort of fleshing out the overall details for the story for the video. and I think it turned out really cool. Seeing our characters go from like their concept design stages all the way up to just sort of like the rough inked version that wasn't in color or anything like that, all the way up to the final evolution of the video was really cool. Animated me is intimidating, and I definitely need to hit the gym because that boy is ripped. Yeah, it was really cool and honestly pretty surreal getting the final cut of it and just being like, oh man, like this is it. This is the new single that we're about to put out. We have something really cool to showcase it. And yeah, really fun process.
Yeah, it's super awesome. Spoiler alert for those of you watching: everyone dies. It's. Yeah. I mean, I guess Malcolm sort of doesn't die, sort of like undead dies.
He dies, but he comes back later.
Yeah, and then kills you. So
I mean,
I was so bummed. I was just like, man. Stevie's stepping up. He's gonna fight this monster. He's gonna use those Full Metal Alchemist chops that only us weebs notice, the little alchemy hand stuff you were doing. And then you like jump off this huge cliff and like beat down this gigantic monster. And I was like, that's my boy right there. I love it. and then Malcolm comes up and I'm just like, oh, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. One thing that I will say though. Never in my life did I ever think that I would enjoy having Malcolm rip my head off.
Yeah.
But seeing that happen, I was just like, I can't even be mad. This is great.
Yeah, definitely a strong foot forward when dropping these singles. And the other two are also great. That title track, man, that got me. I've been listening to it a lot. I always listen to death metal on my way to and from the gym because I'm one of those sociopaths who doesn't wear headphones in the gym.
Yeah.
It's because I sweat out of my ears. It's terrible. Like I'm such a sweaty person that when I have headphones in at the gym, it's just like they fall out. It's more hassle than it's worth.
Dude, I can relate to that. Like,
yeah,
that happens with my in ears. Like when we play, and then like. Part of I'm just like trying to keep them in and stuff like that. It's terrible.
Invest in one of those big around the eye headbands like fucking LeVar Burton from Star Trek.
Yeah, dude, futuristic.
Keep my in-ears in. It's all just the long con. But I listen to a lot of death metal like on my way to and from the gym, or really like business meetings, anything I have to go to where I need to like get jacked and be assertive. And I've been listening to that title track a lot. It has been on my Get Pumped playlist. So I'm very stoked to hear the rest of the album, which comes out September 10th on the Artisan Era, which is a member-owned record label, if I'm correct, right? That's Mike and Malcolm are the two big cheeses over there.
Yeah. The CEOs holding down the fort, like putting out quality tech death record after tech death record. It's pretty killer.
Yeah, that's super sick. So I have a question from a fan, a viewer, compelled to despair. Do you prefer to use metaphors in lyrics that have double meanings in a poetic way, or are you more direct with the words and lyrical schemes?
Man, okay. So that really depends on like the project, I guess, and kind of varies song to song. Because one thing that I like to do is hide. I like to use foreshadowing and callbacks in order to actually tether songs together or carry over specific phrases from track to track. But I would say overall, I guess it's a little more straightforward on the storytelling aspect. But I also will utilize double metaphors and, foreshadowing, callbacks, different sort of tools like that in order to make the song sound cohesive or kind of leave little Easter eggs for people to find and enjoy later.
Right. Well, there you go. There you have it. I like that a lot. I'm a big fan of what I've always called flowery lyrics. Lyrics that aren't so super direct. Having direct lyrical presentation is important, but I really like visual presentation within a lyrical medium. Things that really paint pictures and set things up so that I can immerse while the rest of the lyrics are being delivered.
That's definitely present in like what you've done for Allegiant.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
I
Speaking
try.
of
Oh, go ahead.
big, oh, I was gonna say, speaking of big fan, dude, like I've been listening to Allegiant literally since I was like, I think Greg and I met when I was like 17
Oh, wow.
or something like that. Like when they were putting out their EP, like first iteration
Wow.
of the band. Yeah, I think the first time him and I met, I was like 17, and we like played a show together, and I was just like, dude, holy crap, these guys are amazing. And I've been following since then. I'm pretty sure I've seen like just about every incarnation of a Legion that's happened over the years. Which
That's so sick.
and with
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, no.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, a little birdie has been gracious enough to show me a little bit of that new, and I think that this lineup that you guys have right now is like the strongest that has happened so far, and musically is just like borderline tear jerking. Honestly.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries, no
I
worries.
think it's
and that's crazy because you guys have had a lot of sick lineups.
I think it's definitely the one for sure. You know, a lot of bands, especially in metal, man, go through lineup changes. You know, many revolving door bands out there, and you know, unfortunately, Allegiant has kind of been one of them. You know, you watch these original members slowly drop away, and it's like, oh shit. But now, I think that we are at a point where there's just no stopping. Everyone is super committed. There's no weak links. It's just perfect where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
And this album is definitely our most emotionally impactful album, I would say. Coming off the tails of writing and recording it, definitely something that I think is gonna hit people in a different way than our past material. But thank you. I love you.
You're welcome. Love you too, bro.
But getting back to you and the awesome things that you have been doing. So outside of Inferi, which we have talked a lot about, the last thing that you did that really made waves was with Equipoise and the album Demiurgus that came out in 2019. I've been seeing some stuff on social media coming from old Nick Padovani, the guitar player and, you know, main writer for Equipoise. But it seems to be like a adjacent project. I can't really tell at this point yet if he's writing for Equipoise or if he's doing something else. So what is going on in the Equipoise camp, if you can talk about it?
Yeah, we are working on our follow-up record currently. Lots of songs in the works. There are a few things that have been really well fleshed out and are kind of just ready for me to go through and do my thing. So that's definitely something that's going to be happening. Hopefully we can wrap it by the end of the year. I would like that. I know that everybody else has a lot of stuff going on because they're a lot of dudes in the band and they're all guys that are in other bands as well, you know. Plus for me anyways, I'm actually moving to Nashville in 2 days.
Oh wow.
So yeah, after this podcast I'm literally tearing my office down and packing everything because gotta get that going. Yeah, so definitely working on the follow-up record. Some of the stuff that you have seen on Facebook is from Equipoise. Nick is also in a couple other projects and has been working on things for a couple other projects as well. So, you know, I mean, you know about that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so some of it is for Equipoise. Some of it is for another thing that he's working on as well.
That's very exciting to hear for me. I loved that album. Golf ball coward bass tone intact.
Yeah, dude, there was a lot of very hilarious things said about the presence of the bass, but dude, I mean, like, I honestly feel like
I loved it. It adds a huge element to the album, and I just can't get over how funny that comment is. For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, which is probably all of you. There's a lot of very mix forward fretless bass on that Demiurgus album. And as I said, I think it brings a lot of character to the album. It makes it not just sound like another, you know, riff salady tech death album, among a lot of other things that
Yeah.
make that album special. But there was a YouTube comment that made the rounds in the tech death community because someone described the bass tone as like golf ball coward fretless tone, and I was just like, how, like, who would string together those words to describe anything, let alone a bass tone? And I will not miss any opportunity to use that phrase in my daily vernacular. So
here's hoping more golf ball coward bass tone on the way. I don't think Hugo can't not deliver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's a killer bass player. Got to showcase those lines for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to talk about some stuff going on in your life because you live a very interesting life, sir. You've recently gotten engaged, so huge congratulations on that. You are definitely a metal power couple.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Very, very stoked for you. And then, yeah, you're planning this move to Nashville in just a couple days, apparently. I didn't realize it was so soon. We had Mark Lewis on a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, he's going to have to come back because that stream was just a horrible internet connection on my end, so I'm bad for that. But in that stream, he mentioned loving being in the Tennessee area for how rich of a musical community is out there. Now, I know you're probably moving out to be closer to the Inferi guys and all that kind of stuff, but are you excited for the other half of that, of being in such a hub for music in the United States?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like super stoked. I actually already have tickets to see a show out there. It'll be the first actual show that I've been to since everything shut down.
Nice.
Yeah. So I am thrilled about that. Whitney and I got tickets to see Lorna Shore on their upcoming tour, which I think is going to be super rad.
So good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Absolutely nasty.
Yeah.
But the one cool thing about Nashville too is that like it has a number of like it's a music hub, and the fact that there are a number of very sick things happening in different genres there. They have a very thriving classical scene, you know, like lots of really cool stuff on that front. Lots of cool like rock bands. There are some pretty sick death metal bands and like deathcore bands in the area as well. So being able to be in a place where I'll have a wide option of like just different kind of music to enjoy is going to be really sick. Actually being in the same place as a few other people in Inferi is going to be really cool. You know, at this point there'll be 4 of us that are living there, so like, you know, maybe we might have some practices once in a while outside of when we need to tour or like write in a room, right. Or maybe we'll just procrastinate on those things and hang out and like, you know, enjoy some beverages or something
right.
like that.
Either is great. Either is great.
Yeah, exactly.
I just had a lunch and a couple beers with your holdout member out in Denver, Mr. Andrew Kim.
Oh, nice.
Was just out there doing some stuff for the new Allegiant record, and got a chance to see him and catch up. It's always good seeing that man. He's a great guy.
Absolutely. Did he try to like melt your face with anything? Did he bring any sauce?
He didn't. Thank God, because I am such a weak baby when it comes to hot sauce and spice. Like, you know, I like it in reasonable amounts. You know, I'm not the type of person who, you know, orders all my Thai food at level 0 spice type of stuff, but I max out at like 3 or 4. Okay. Versus Andrew and, you know, our new drummer Jeff, who have definitely related on the fact that they are apparently masochists. So yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. He brings it. Like the last time, so when we were in Denver recording with Dave, we had a hangout day where it was essentially like Inferi and our old drummer Eric Brown.
Yes.
Eric W. Brown, the legendary Pirate King. Where they busted out the last dab, and we were literally just like, it was like, take a straw, put it into the bottle, so it was like this much of it coated, and then just like doing the thing. I saw Mike do it, and he was like crying, and I was like, man, you can't, really? And then I did it and was, I'm not crying, you're crying. It was so brutal, but like, worth it.
Yeah.
Worth it for sure.
Yeah.
At least once.
I learned that Dave Otero is also one of those guys. And the way they talk about it, like it's like a religious experience. They're just like, yeah, man, once you push through that first, that first bit of like, oh, my mouth hurts and the tears and the sweat come, you get this like body relief. It's like transcendental. And I'm just like, you guys are fucking maniacs. I don't understand.
Yeah, dude. It's for some of them, it's like that Scientology level, but instead it's like Scovilles, where they're like, dude, once you hit 1.5 million Scovilles, you will transcend into your next form.
How to meet God. Well, there's a story for the next album, right? You drink too much hot sauce, go meet God, and get in touch with your spiritual side. It's like a Tool record, but about spicy shit.
Spicy Tool.
Spicy Tool. So one thing I have to bring up, because how could I not, while wearing this Dio JoJo's shirt, you and I have always related on the fact that we are both gigantic nerds, huge nerds. We actually have matching Triforce tattoos, which show it off, Stevie. There it is. There it is. So we big nerds. It bleeds into everything. I have to say. Being a huge fan of video games, anime, manga, superhero movies, all that type of shit, really is reflected not only in our personalities, I feel, but in our art. So I have to ask you how being a fan of those nerdy mediums has influenced you as an artist.
First and foremost, I think it's the idea of world building.
Right.
One thing that has always really appealed to me with like certain video game franchises or different anime and stuff like that is how they utilize, and even sci-fi and fantasy definitely is like the utilization of soft and hard world building in order to construct things and sort of relay underlying themes on an album, even though you're telling a story. So, for instance, in Vile Genesis is very much this like crazy sci-fi fantasy story first and foremost, but there are undertones at the advancement of technology and just the sort of self-destructive nature of humans, and ultimately like how humans deal with their trauma are very much underlying themes in the record. So just really that sense of world building and character development, I feel, is something that I always pay attention to in different series and has definitely shaped the way that I go about writing stories and creating characters. Also, just sort of the over the top enjoyment of things. I would definitely say, a lot of people, especially in like the anime and manga community, are like, they're like decked out in it, they'll have their My Hero cap with the huge full print shirt and stuff like that, all of the danglies. But I feel like death metal lends itself to that so well, because in terms of like appearance and sort of matching with the things that you like and mirroring those sort of things, I feel like you see that way more in the metal community of people that are like, well, sick, I've got like this killer hat from this band that I like with another one of my favorite band shirts, or this vest with 800,000 patches on it, patches on patches, kind of thing going through, which is really awesome to see, and then it's also like another thing that just like lends itself to helping out the thing that they enjoy.
Exactly. I think that it's really cool that you brought that up and made that parallel, because that is a huge thing that the metal community has really always had, but still maintains even in this modern age where physical media is less relevant than it's ever been, right? Mm-hmm. Like everything is streamable. You have easy access to your favorite things pretty much everywhere, right?
Yep.
But metal fans are still out here buying shirts and building battle vests and buying, doo-doo splatter variant albums and LPs and stuff. Like they're all still out here being hands down the most supportive community. I forgive me if you're a constant viewer who has heard this story before, but I will never forget, I played a show with you actually at that venue, the Hi-Hat in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And after that tour ended, maybe a couple months, I went to go see this alt pop artist, someone who I've just been a big fan of for like 2015. Finally got a chance to see her. She moved from New York to LA and started playing local shows. I was so stoked. Cool. And the show itself, attendance wise, was pretty much the same. You know, room was about 80%, 3/4 full.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to I never realized what a metalhead I was until this moment, because I went to go see if she had merch or anything that I could buy to like directly support her as an artist, and she had like a t-shirt that was just like a single color, like it
Mm-hmm.
and everyone else that was at this show, very similar merch setup. After a show, everyone who's been to a metal show knows that after a band plays, the 2 longest lines in the building, 3 longest lines, are the bar, the bathroom, and the merch table, right?
Yep.
Usually the latter being the longest of all. And when I went to this show, it just blew my mind because there was 5, 6 different people performing that night, all 1 to 2 member projects, except for the last one, which was like a full band, very studio bedroom type of stuff. And nobody gave a shit about anything other than just being at the show and like schmoozing with the community, and it just blew my mind. And it the reason I tell this story is because it gave me such a sharp perspective on how actually dedicated the metal community is, even to this day in 2020, which was when this was, right before the pandemic hit. And it's such a special thing, and I just have to acknowledge that the metal community is still the best community out there as far as supporting artists and keeping things alive goes.
Oh,
so
dude, bar none. Like no contest. It's amazing.
Yeah.
A similar story that I have, like so a few years back, I went to go see Muse at the at Red Rocks, right, when I was living in Colorado, and was a little tipsy. Had a little bit of fungus. Went down to like the merch area and was like, man, like I wonder if they have vinyl. Like I really want to get like Muse like records because they're easily one of my favorite bands of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And I walked over to the merch station and was like, hey, dude, like, do you guys have vinyl or CDs or anything like that for sale? And he looked at me like I was insane.
Yeah.
And so I had to check myself and be like, did I just say what I thought I said? Maybe I should ask again. And so once again, I'm like, hey, do you guys have vinyl or like CDs or anything? And he's like, no. Like, it looks at me like I'm absolutely crazy. And it's like, we have these shirts. And once again, there were like 6 options, but I was just like, dude, these dudes sell millions of records.
Yeah.
But there is not a record in sight. Like, and
Yeah.
it's not even sold out. It's just straight up didn't bring them.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's
It's
crazy.
wild, man. It's absolutely wild. And I feel that even if a physical copy of something becomes nothing more than memorabilia, something you never open and you just listen to it on streaming platforms, whatever, that value is still there. It's still an intrinsic part of being a metal fan, is being like, I have this thing that I can hold that these guys made, and it's so sick, and I just love it so much. One of my favorite things about being in the metal scene is seeing that, I can't remember what you said, that over-the-top enthusiasm, I guess, for the thing that you're just into.
Oh, dude, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you have artifacts as well, especially from like
yeah.
when you were younger and going to shows. Like one of my favorite things that I have from the earlier days is it's just this tour flyer that I got autographed by everyone in Behemoth at the first show that I went to, and it's covered in guar blood because
Yes.
they were doing the same thing. And it's a flyer that's not even for that show.
Yeah.
But like, it's sick.
That's so rad. Yeah, I still have my very first festival ticket stub, which was Ozfest 2001. So
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah, still have it. It's in its special little place with all my tour laminates and my other little little medals of honor from being a metalhead all these 20 plus years. So before we go, because I've kept you for a while, don't want to take up your whole day since you do have a big day in front of you, packing down and moving and all that stuff. What else are you working on? Anything else that you want to mention to our listeners that we haven't talked about up until this point?
Yeah. So first and foremost, Vile Genesis drops on September 10th via the Artisan Era. If you haven't checked out the singles yet, totally pull up that Mesmeric Horror video. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. Guarantee it. If not, worst case scenario, you get to see me die. So there is value to be taken away from it. Following that, Inferi has 2 tours coming up. So we're going out with Archaic and the Black Crown Initiate, or Black Crown Initiate, but that starts September 30th. It's going to be like East Coast, working its way towards the center US, and then, going back out that way. And then we are going out with Decapitated, Black Tongue, and Heart of a Coward to UK and Europe. Starts late January, the 25th through February 27th. So if you're in the area, definitely check that out. Let's, come out. Let's have a great time. Everybody's stoked to get back on the road. It's going to be guaranteed good time. Aside from that, Tethys is working on some new stuff. Equipoise is definitely working on new stuff. There is an Ashen Horde record that is already done. We're just waiting on figuring out stuff for the release.
Nice.
So yeah, lots of stuff in the works going on. And 2021, 2022, things are looking a bit better. So
yes, finally picking back up, getting back to where things should be.
Yeah.
Well, Stevie,
good work.
Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you watching, make sure to go follow Stevie and Inferi at the social links provided just below our beautiful faces. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another guest. Make sure to keep your eyes on those Metal Blade social media properties to find out who. Until then,